we're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, we're live now, so okay. I think Heather's mute there, sorry.
Yeah.
No, okay, we're both good.
Yeah, all good and ready to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Our Ladies Remote takeover of the YR webinar series. I'm Heather Turner from Our Ladies Remote, and I'm joined here by Kevin O'Brien, representing YR. Is that what you're going to say, Kevin?
Oh yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we're really excited about this collaboration with Our Ladies Remote Chapter, and hopefully we'll be the first of many. And you know, if anyone else is interested in similar collaborations in the future, this is, you know, a great concept that we can explore. And hopefully this will be the first of many, and we'll be joined with speakers from all over the world and all sorts of viewpoints about the R programming language. That's it. I'll hand it back there.
Thanks, Kevin. And just to say a little bit about Our Ladies Remote, so we're the virtual chapter of the Our Ladies organisation, which supports minority genders in the R community. So we have very occasional live talks. We haven't had too many, especially as lots of other people have been doing virtual events in recent times. But we also have a Slack group where we chat and where we've done other things like reading groups in the past. So if you want to find out more and join the group, you can look at our Twitter and it tells you how to link up with us there. Right, so as Kevin said, we've got a few talks lined up for today, and we're very pleased to have our first speaker, Afiqah Masrani, with us from Malaysia. Hi, Afiqah.
Hello there, Ashida.
So thanks for accepting our invitation to talk to us. And today you're going to be talking to us about the gtsummary package. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So do you want to share your slides and take it from here?
Sorry about that.
Do you want to share your slides now? And
yeah.
then we can begin.
I'll start now. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you again, Keith, for the kind introduction. So hello and assalamualaikum. Hello and assalamualaikum. A very good pleasant day to the viewers who are joining us on Our Ladies Remote Takeover webinar series. So thank you again, Heather, for the kind introduction. So today you will be joining me in my sharing session for presentation ready tables for public health with the gtsummary package in R. So just a brief introduction about myself. So, I'm Afiqah Syamimi. I have graduated with a medical degree in Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland in 2013. And I've just completed my master's in public health last year from University of Science Malaysia. Currently, I'm a first-year doctor in public health candidate and expect to get in 2023 with a special interest in occupational and environmental health. So just a brief my previous work experience. I was the deputy director of the Communicable Disease and Disease Surveillance Unit in the State Health Department, Malaysia. So that was I was there for almost 2 years, and that was where I cultivated my interest in public health. It was my first exposure to public health, and I was exposed to having data management and data analysis as part of my daily bread and butter, as most of those in surveillance and public health would have known. So I was humbled as well recently to be part of the epidemiological team directly under the Ministry of Science and Technology Malaysia, analyzing the effect of movement control order MCO on COVID-19 in Malaysia. Basically, what we did was building evidence on how the MCO had reduces the transmission of COVID in our country, and thus buying us much needed time to adapt and also control the disease in our country. So I guess that's just a brief introduction about myself. Going on to the rationale behind the topic that I've used, presentation ready tables for public health. So when Janani initially emailed me with an invitation for the as one of the speakers for our Ladies Takeover webinar series. So it got me thinking, what experience do I have and what skills do I have that I can share with others? And it got me reminded of my epidemiological and medical statistic course last semester, where we had to analyze a series of data, public health data, and in a 2 hours period time, in 2 hours time period in our examination, we have to come up with 2 regression models and 1 survival analysis, of which at that point you can imagine how we have to transfer at the end of the exam, we had to transfer all those analysis and data to a Word format. So you can just imagine how those who are using SPSS had to cut and paste. I believe that many people would have done before cutting and pasting the data into the Word document, and those who uses R will still have to adjust their table afterwards. So I was one of the few that was lucky enough to be introduced to the summary before the exam, and I can tell you how the summary package had eased a lot of the troubles when making the tables. So when thinking about the public health, we think about the amount of data that we have. It is complex, the complex nature involving population data, environmental data, even the socioeconomic data, economic data. So all this data will have to be combined and meshed together to produce something that is something that we can help in terms of building impacting the health of the population. So the complex nature of the public data itself, together with the different units and different variables that are used, you will hamper in terms of the format selection, how to summarize, how to organize, and how to analyze the data. So from this selection, we need to provide consistent and timely reproducible output. So when producing reproducible output, it may be every time that we use a different software or different package, it will come out differently. So gtsummary package provides means to have a reproducible output every single time. Okay. So that is how the presentation comes about. Now, going on to the intention of this presentation. So I'm the first of two other speakers. We have 2 other speakers in this series of webinar who are highly skilled and highly knowledgeable in their own field. So my presentation today is more suitable for beginners, and it will be more on the practical application of gtsummary package. We'll not go into depth in terms of the technical part of the package itself. And before going on further, I would like to acknowledge Shober et al. And his team as the author, creator, and contributors of the gtsummary package. This is a disclaimer that I am not part of the author contributors and not part of the creators of the package. I'm merely a user who finds that gtsummary package is a indispensable package for me. And I would like to convey my gratitude to my supervisor, Professor Dr. Kamawat Ibrahim Musa, or usually be called Prof. Kim, for always believing that I could present in any webinar with regards to R. And also I would like to convey my heartiest gratitude to Our Ladies East Lansing, especially to Heather and also Janani for inviting me to be part of this series. They are the organizers of Our Ladies Remote Takeover and YR's webinar series. So going on to the outline of my presentation, I will be going through the introduction, where I will go through a brief summary on the importance of tables in public health research, and subsequently I will go through the package overview for gtsummary, and lastly the application and examples. Okay, I will be focusing more on the application and examples in this presentation afterwards. So going on to the introduction, when to use tables for data presentation. So the argument is that when the data presentation format and the task type match, the decision makers can formulate a mental representation and use information process that fits the external presentation of the data. So when I'm talking about the task type, I mean in terms of there are 2 different types, which are spatial tasks and verbal tasks. Spatial tasks are mainly more on the picture graph. We want to show relationships or trends among data. And for this kind of task, or this kind of data that we want to portray, graphs and figures are mainly being used, as compared to verbal tasks, which are mainly in terms of data values or specific amounts or the comparison between two sets of data, most of the time tables are much better to be used. So the rules for tables, as mentioned by Charles in 2004, a table should be included only if can more succinctly supply essential information than can a written description. In which case, there are three rules that he mentioned, which are data tables should be complete but must not be too complex. Meaning that if it's too complex, having nested data or if there's too many levels, people have to analyze the table itself rather than the data, then it is not it's not a good table to be produced. And however, having said that, it must have all the important information inside the table, including the raw numbers, the percentages, the statistical significance, and even the p-values. At the same time, you shouldn't have any redundancy of information in the text, table, figures, or graphs. So these are the three rules of tables in any presentation or any reports that you include. So going to the public health research, the primary intent of public health research is to yield generalizable knowledge. So there are three basic inputs we can classify as public health research is when the benefits goes beyond the needs of the study participants. We have the reference population and we have the general population. So if the result that we gain can be inferred to the general population, that is one of the benefits that we can gain. And secondly, there's a collection of data exceeding what's needed to care. Meaning that we are not just talking about data on the health of the participants, but also their socio-economic status, their general environmental data, the general politics information. All these data are collected as part of the public health research as well. And third, generation of knowledge with relevance outside the population, meaning that we can infer we can predict and also project the data to other populations or to another time period as well. So these are the benefits of what we conclude as public health research. Now going on to the package overview for gtsummary. gtsummary is basically a package that provides an elegant and flexible way to create application-ready analytical and summary tables using the R programming language. So it has been coined as presentation-ready data summary and analytics result tables. The latest version, as updated in PRAN, is on the 19th of May 2021 with the version 1.4.1, and the requirements are having version 3.4 and above. And these are a list of the important the packages that are imported together with summary package. So for GTSummary, the package itself, it creates default tabular summaries, which are highly customized with highly customizable capabilities. There are 4 functions which are summarizing the data frames, summarizing regression models, cross-tabulation, and also survival data. At the same time, you can also report statistics from GTSummary tables inline R Markdown. So going deeper into the overview, the main functions are divided into that I can conclude. The first one is summary table, which are between some table summary, table regression, and table survey. Table survey is for survival analysis. And we have cross-tabulation. We produce cross-tabulation, and subsequently we have combining tables. Combining tables will be explained further in the presentation afterwards. Okay, so that's the general overview of the GT package. So going directly into the application and examples of a GT summary package. For the purpose of this presentation, I will be using 2 data sets. The first data set is being metabolic syndrome, and the second data set will be on post-stroke survival. So for the first set is a cross-section study on determinants of metabolic syndrome involving 4,340 participants. So there's 20 different variables, but for this presentation, only 6 variables will be used, which are the age, gender, diabetes status, hypertension status, cholesterol, and smoking status. So I've specifically used 2 continuous variables and 4 other categorical variables for my presentation today. So for the function table summary, summary, generally in any clinical and epidemiologic studies, the first question that many would ask is, who is in the study. So when we are talking about who is in the studies, we just care about who is involved because it helps them understand and evaluate the study's findings, either to assess the applicability to other regions or populations, or to estimate the risk of bias of that particular study. So the results papers often include a table that describes the study sample, which is commonly the first table in a paper and commonly called as table 1. So gtsummary provides a means to produce a table 1 that is reproducible every single time that we wanted to report something. So for the default or the basic coding is table summary with the data sets in the brackets, and this is the basic output for the table 1. From this, we can see that the variables that is summarized is continuous, dichotomous, and categorical. It is automatically detected by gtsummary, and we can see that all the continuous variables will have hidden IQR as mentioned in the footnotes. For dichotomous and categorical will be n and percentage as seen here, and for this, we can see that for missing data will be under unknown. So list and A values unknown here. So we can see that there's 54 participants with missing total cholesterol. And afterwards, we also have label attributes that are printed automatically, meaning that all the labels will be included here, except for the dichotomous variables. They will only produce, for example, the hypertension and diabetes history. Only those with yes answers will be included. Okay, for categorical data, which is smoking, it will automatically printed as never smoker, ex-smoker, and active smoker. So that's the basic default of the table summary coding. So we can also customize our table and customize them in terms of data arrangement, in terms of adding additional information, and also we can customize in terms of aesthetic or putting cosmetics towards our table itself. So for the customizable functions, the general code is as follows. We have the function, we have the variable, and we have the instruction. As an example here, we can see here, if you want to change the label, you have to write down the function as label and subsequently choose a specific variable, which is here I will choose smoking, and the instruction is to change from smoking to smoking history. Let's say that we have more than 2 sets of instruction in a particular function, so we have to use list. So here it's an example of having label. So with a list, with smoking, changing it to smoking history, and DM changing to diabetes. So that's how you have to compute for any specific, for more than 2 sets of instructions. Going on to the examples, this is an example for data arrangement. So we have here the default coding table summary and the data 1, and now we want to change from reviewing the data as an overall. We want to see in terms of whether there's any differences in terms of gender for male and female. So we have the by function here, by gender. So subsequently, I've changed statistic for hypertension, as shown here. The statistic for hypertension showing the n over the overall numbers, the percentage. So any changes here, we can see the differences in the footnote as well. Okay, and I've also changed the label for smoking from smoking to smoking history. So it automatically computes in the label as well. So this is the second example, data arrangement. So we can see that for this one, it's still categorized by male and female, but I changed the statistic age. So let's say that we have, like, in this example, we have more than 4,000 participants. So we can assume that is a normal distribution, and we wanted to use a mean and ST function. So we changed that from median IQR to accommodate age, change it into mean and ST. So we can see this here mean and ST, and at the same time, we wanted to change the decimal points to be 2. So you can make it into 1 decimal points, 3 decimal points, up to you, or depending on the journal or any reports you want to do. And we can see that any changes that we make to the formula or to the table, it will automatically be seen in the footnotes as well. So in here, we can see that it is included in C, the N percentage, and also the median IQR. So those are for the data arrangement. Subsequently, we have additional information. This is an example for additional information. At this point, I wanted to add the overall and also overall for the number of the distribution of the data and also the overall numbers of participants involved. So as you can see here, I've hide those with missing variables, missing data, and the missing equals to no. So there's no more missing data that is included here, but we can see that it's reflected in the overall number where the number is as compared to overall and overall sample size. And we can see that there's an inclusion of the n and also n here. This addition will be an included extra column to the table. So, and in this example, I'm showing that additional information for p-value and also adjusted p-value. So in this case, I changed the list. This is an example of changing the list for diabetes such as the history and adding p-values to the end of the column and also adjusted p-value with a method with one only method at the end. So whatever change that we make here will be affected the footnotes where for p-value, it uses the cox-hazard sum test or pieces chi-square test. And for the adjusted p-value, is the one-for-one correction for multiple testing. So it helps that you don't need to think about the footnotes or any changes that you make in the customization, as it will be reflected like so be in the footnotes as well. Now this one is the third example for additional information is when you want to do an ANCOVA or a comparison between two different data. So in this sense, I wanted to compare whether there's any differences for male and female when it is confounded by diabetes and hypertension. So we have the continuous variables, age, cholesterol, age and cholesterol, and we have the confounding variables, diabetes and hypertension. To compare between the two for the male and female. And we can see that at the end, the footnotes included the ANCOVA and also the confidence interval as well, which reflected in the additional columns at the right side of the table. So the adjusted difference is the ANCOVA result, and also the confidence intervals and also the value as well. Okay, those are the examples for additional information. Now we're going to the aesthetics function as well. So when we go to aesthetics, as the name implies that it's on the cosmetics part, whether you want to bold the labels or you want to italize the labels here. So this is an example where I just bold the labels and italize the levels. At the same time, you can also bold the p-value that are significant. So as shown in the red box. The second part of the aesthetics is when we want to change the overall table itself. For this part, I changed the header, modify the header, and also the span of the header, where usually we have to, if it's in the Word document, you have to merge the two columns together. But in this case, we just modify the span of header to combine it, become male and female. So that's how you change the spanning header and also the header itself. And for modifying the footnote, I put here information, media IQR for continuous variables, and percentage for categorical variables. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots more. There's lots more of additional information that you can input. There's more aesthetic function and even different types of information that you can include inside the table. You can go to the Data Showbook's website for those extra information, or they have tutorial as well. So going on to cost tabulation function, CBL cost. So this is the basic cost tabulation function that we have in gtsummary, where we can see the relationship between two different variables. For this example, I've chosen row for gender and column smoking. So for cost tabulation, it's basically times m kinds of table where you can make it 2 by 2, 3 by 2, and 3 by 2. It depends on what type of information that you need. So for this example, I've included the 3 by 2 table and with an additional p value at the end. But for this one, even though I put the add P, if supposedly for default, it will have an extra column at the end at the right side. But since I put included source notes equals to true inside the bracket, so it becomes part of the footnote as compared to an additional column, which might be a waste in the sense. Okay, so that's how you can create a classification as well. So next, we have the table surfeit function. So this is basically for the survival analysis. And for survival analysis, as mentioned before this, I'll be using the second data set, which is post-hoc survival. For this data set, it is a survival analysis of 950 post-hoc patients in a particular hospital, consisting of 30 variables. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'll be using the variables as mentioned here. For numerical variables, I use three, which are age, length of stay, and the number of appointments that have been attended prior to the stroke incident. For categorical variables, I include gender, IHT, and COPD status. The time is time, is follow up, and also the outcome variable is death in this study. So time to event summary. For this, we have to complete two survival analysis first. The default, which is equal to 1, and also when we specify the risk factor IHT. So after producing these different analysis, we include them inside the table and produce this particular table here, where we can see that in terms of the overall, 79% of the people survive the first quartile as compared to only 51% patients survive by the third quartile of the research period. And we can see here that we can add an additional p-value showing that it's significant for those who don't have IHT and those with IHT as their comorbid. Okay. So that is part of the time to event summary, which is nice in terms of showing directly the first quarter and the third quarter. So you can specify that here whether you want to have it at 250 or 750. This is because of days that we use. So that for this analysis we had 1,000 days, and we complete the first quarter to be first 250 days post incident. Okay, so next we will go through the table regression function. The table regression is for any regression analysis that we did in R. This is the basic output or the default output that we can gain, and as you can see, it's quite messy. It's quite difficult to see where's the p-value, where's the beta regression. If you want to, it is a horror, just a horror to cut and paste any information here into the specific table for reporting purposes. So the GT summary, the basic regression table is by using the table regression code, the table regression, and the module that we produced here. And this is the basic table that we give. And for this example, if I use the linear regression for univariable, so we get a better regression variable here. And afterwards, we have the 95% CI and the p-value as well. So that is the basic table regression. However, sometimes we still need to make a few univariable analysis prior to proceed with any multivariable analysis. But for the previous table regression function, they can only compute for multiple regression model. But for univariable analysis, there's a special function where we can combine all those regression models into one single table without having to go through the tedious process of using with singular regression models for each and specific variables. So for this, the coding is table UV regression, and you can see here that I use the method M with the output to be total cholesterol and using data one as. So this is the output that we gain, and you can see that this is the univariate analysis as compared to multivariable analysis. When comparing this to the next one, which is the multivariate analysis, you can see the difference is that rather than for the univariate analysis, they have an additional column of work as compared to multivariate analysis. And again, since it's a linear regression model, we can see the beta column for the beta regression as well. And at the end, we have the confidence interval as part of the footnote. As compared to a linear regression with a logistic regression, linear for continuous variables, logistic for categorical variables, we can see categorical output. Sorry. So for logistic regression, rather than having a beta regression column, we have a log OR column here. So here I change the hypothesis. Let's say that we want to see the output to be whether the status is the status is being affected by age, gender, hypertension, and smoking. So in this sense, we're using a multiple logistic regression, and we can see that in footnote we have the odds ratio and the confidence interval. So there's there's a few other regression models that are being accumulated by gtsummary, including LM, GLM, the survival for cox analysis, and self-reg. So for further details, you can always go to Daniel Schoberg's website for the particular tutorials for each regression model. Going forward, we have the table merge and table stack. As mentioned before, it is basically just a function to combine two different tables together. So the difference is being table merge is when we want to combine the table side by side, as compared to table stack, where we combine the table vertically up and down. So for table merge, an example that we can use table merge is when we want to compare or we want to produce a table for univariate and multivariate analysis. So as previously shown, we did a univariate analysis, a table for univariate analysis, and a table for multiple linear multivariate analysis. And when we merge them together, we will gain both inside the particular table. And another example is when we do a cox-hazard analysis. So what I want to highlight here is that when we do the table regression models for logistic regression or any cox-hazard analysis, we have the log OR as the default. So the default is exponentially false. But sometimes for there's certain clinicians or epidemiologists for the public, they might have difficulty in explaining what log HR or log OR is. So in this case, we can always customize to change it to become exponential equals to 2 and changing it to hazard ratio in this example. So for this, I combine both the exponential false and exponential, meaning that we can directly have the same hazard ratio and log hazard ratio in the same table for easier conclusion or for easier interpretation of the result. And we have a footnote hazard ratio as well to explain exactly what it means in the specific table. So for table stack, and for when we want to stack two tables together vertically is when we, for an example, is when we want to include an adjusted logistic regression. This is not what we did in our particular study, but this is an example when we wanted to use it. So meaning for whatever reasons that you wanted to include unadjusted and adjusted logistic regression, just have to create two different tables with tables, and subsequently use the coding table stack is table 1 and table 2, and they will auto generate to include the tables both together like this. Okay, so inline text. So the next part of the presentation. Tables are important, but sometimes we still need to report the results inline in a report. So this is especially true when explaining the result of regression models for reading understanding. So for extracting data from gtsummary into report, the default for any inline for the inline function is the pattern is to have the estimate, the confidence level, the confidence interval for low and high values, and value as well. So this is the logistic regression table that we did earlier. And from here, in code, meaning inside the R program, we include the function R inline text and table. We choose the specific table that we wanted, and the variable that we wanted equals to gender. For this example, I use the gender, and when we download it as an R markdown in the report, it will come out as an odds ratio for females to have, which is the estimate, which is 1.8, together with the confidence interval and the p value directly inside the report. So it saves time, and also it saves the possibility of error when transferring the data from the table to the report. Okay. So next, in the end, finally, we have just need to polish the tables. Polishing the tables include two parts, whether to use the gtsummary themes and also in terms of the output of the gtsummary packages. So in terms of polishing the tables, we have the gtsummary themes, meaning that the default is the tables will be aligned with the report lines for the European Urology, the Journal of Urology, and the British Journal of Urology International. So that is the default that we see earlier that I've shown before. But there are a few other things that are available. One of them being for specific for the JAMA journal, and you can also customize your own theme, setting own theme by using the set underscore theme, my custom theme. So for this, you can view the tutorials in Danish Robert's website as well. Other than that, the second part of polishing the table is the output format. So the output format, you can either download the individual tables, or you can download them directly as an R Markdown format. So here you can see that there are a few different print engines and their functions as well, how to include them in coding, and the different types of formats that are included. So for those with a smiley, meaning that they are well compatible. As you can see here, Huxley is the most compatible gtsummary, and they produce very wonderful tables, and you don't, most of the time there's no requirement to adjust anymore. But for others like cable, it might require a bit of adjusting in terms of the indentation of the labels as well, or the format itself. But for table, as you can see here, is definitely not compatible with gtsummary. So whenever you want to download, you have to review first whether you want to use the function in the print in the fast table, is highly recommended, or even cable extra as compared to cable table. Okay. So for more details on the gtsummary themes, you can go to Daniel Schrober's website, and for the outputs as well, there's a few directions or tutorials on how to go forward with the outputs. So in summary, well-organized data and analysis summaries in public health research is essential in building generalizable knowledge beyond the certification, as everyone can relate that public health is all about the social determinants of health. We have a lot of complex data that we have to mesh together. So in that sense, having them well organized creates a better understanding, not only for those who need to be involved in policy making, but also in terms of being given to the public itself. So if they can understand the data that were given, it is much better in terms of and also compliance of any policies. So table serves as a tool for communicating or direct comparison with the report. So choosing the best format for your data, whether it's a table or in terms of figures and graphs, is a tool for communicating whatever data that you have. And table serves as the best tool for discrete data. And gtsummary package assists researchers in producing reproducible presentation data tables. As we have been mentioned before this, a lot of researchers have mentioned about the reproducible crisis, whereby whenever we want to transcribe data or transfer data from any specific format to another, there can be error in between. So that's human error or any machine error. So gtsummary reduces the risk of that particular error for having reproducible tables, which is in a timely fashion. Okay, so basically that's these references that I use in my presentation, and that's basically it for my presentation today. Questions?
Thanks very much, Afiqah. And the slides will be available on the Our Ladies Remote GitHub. So hopefully we'll put a link to that on the YouTube description if it's not there already. So you can find the slides and go through the details, because there's quite a lot of code presented there, and obviously it's a lot to take in if people want to apply it to their own work. Yeah, so if anybody's got any questions about Afiqah's talk, do feel free to put them into the live chat. We've got a couple there already, but just to remind people that that's an option. Okay, so the first question that we had was from Alan Haynes, and he says, for Surfit, you presented a summary where you were presenting the percentage survival, and he wondered if you could do it the other way around and present the time point at which 50% had died.
So can you repeat the question? There's
Yeah.
with YouTube.
If you want to reshare your slides, feel free. So the question is about the Surfit summary. And in your summary, you showed the percent that had survived. And the question is, can you do it the other way? Can you show the time point at which 50% have died?
Oh, okay. So at the moment that is default. The default output, meaning that you can show those who survive in that sense. But I do believe that you can change that. I never did it before, but I believe that in the coding you can change that between the two. I've never done it before, but I believe that it can be done in terms of the customization as well.
So you would do that as part of the gtsummary code rather than the modeling code, right?
Yeah.
Okay, another question from Myling So. Is it possible to add additional footnotes under the table?
Yes, it's definitely. You can always modify the footnotes as well. So as shown before this, there's the coding for modify footnotes, where you can add additional footnotes as well. You can change the current footnotes, or you can add extra as needed as well.
So they could be completely custom footnotes. You know, if you needed to add some sort of footnote that was very specific to the study, you could add that as a footnote.
If let's say that you are the footnotes that is generated is basically those that are specific for the statistics or the data that is included in the table. For let's say if you want to add additional information with regards to the specific research or analysis, so you might have to add extra notes as well. So I'm not so sure whether you can add extra notes which is beyond the statistics of the data that is included in the table itself, but maybe you have to include that as an additional afterwards as compared to inside coding.
Right, yeah. So perhaps related to that, in your regression examples, you showed tables of the parameters in the model and statistics and p-values related to those parameters. Can you also add statistics related to the overall model, for example, the R-squared of a regression or the deviance of a logistic model?
Yeah, I believe you can do that. There's a whole lot of other additional information that can be included. Is the list that I've shown or the examples that I showed is not exhaustible. So there's a whole lot others that for the specific. I'm not there's the Daniel Show website. You can go through that particular details. There's a whole lot of other additional information that included here.
Okay, thank you. Just going to see if there was anything else. You showed the inline text, an example of including statistics from the table in the text of your report. is that customizable, or is it quite fixed, the sort of text that it generates?
It's customizable. So the one that I've shown is a default example. So in the default example is always estimate, confidence interval, and also the p-value itself. So it is customizable in terms of the kind of data that you want. You can change it inside the coding, and it's much easier to do that as well. So you can change that. It's customizable. But I didn't show the examples here.
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's obviously a package that has a lot of functionality, and there was already a lot covered in your talk. So thank you very much. One more question from the chat. What advice would you give to public health professionals who are not coders yet, who want to learn more about R?
Okay, so you know that I learned about R because it's part of my part of my master's program. So that's when I started to see. Before that, actually, I started with SPSS. So according to my supervisor, SPSS, our first love was statistics. Then after you start to be introduced to R, you change from SPSS to R. And from my experience, the change from SPSS to R itself, learning R, you need to have the interest to go to details, because you have to customize the coding yourself. You have to be very detailed in your codings. Any specific if there's any changes in your even a single number or a single full stop will change the whole code itself. So I'm sure that everyone knows how difficult in the first few times using R it is with regards to coding. But if you can go to different, try to find those different codes and the different packages that help. There's a whole lot of websites. The Scran website, and also there's for this we have the for the summary package, there's the website. So for GitHub itself, so you can go there and see how to proceed with our usage. And there's quite a lot of tutorials online from YouTube itself. So if you have the interest and you have the time to go into small details, you can find that using R will have a much better way to have customized your not only your data but also your analysis to make them much more friendlier. So you can include pictures inside R. You can use spatial information inside R as compared to using different systems or different softwares for this particular analysis. Everything can be done inside R itself. It just takes more interest and more time to explore R itself. So if I have any advice to them is to try to explore. So when exploring, it's not just about going to YouTube and going to Pran. We go to the specific tutorials, and sometimes going to the conferences, having to listen to other people's presentations and see that there's actually a specific package for another thing, or special analysis, for example, or PCB package for the general editing models for non-linear regression. So all these packages, if you are not exposed to them, you wouldn't be able to explore. So when you want to explore, when you want to be exposed, you have to go through these different conferences, different talks, and listen to other people's presentation first. So, and also when you want to create your own hypothesis, maybe from those hypotheses, you can gain extra interest or extra effort to explore as well. Yeah, if I would say anything, you just have to have the interest to explore all these different packages and also the different functions of R.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned going to talks and conferences. Obviously, the YR webinars are good talks to go to.
Exactly.
There's also the Use R conference, which has its registration open at the moment, and it's a virtual conference this year, and the registration is adapted to the country that you're living in. So we've tried to make it affordable for people to come. But if you don't have funding from your employer, you can also apply for a fee waiver just when you register. So I would encourage people to consider coming along to use R and being inspired, so that you can find all the potential that Afiqah was just talking about. And often that's the starting point of exciting things. You see what R can do, and then you're motivated to go and look at those websites and learn more. We have a bit of time for another question. Apart from the main packages like Tidyverse, do you have a favorite package or packages that you recommend people to look at, apart from gtsummary, of course?
Apart from gtsummary and the main package, the ggplot is good one for producing graphs. And because I did for my thesis prior to this, I used the MGCV package for generalized editing model. So for the MGCV package, it's quite nice if you want to explore the data first. If you don't know whether there's the relationship between the data, whether there's any linear or non-linear between the data. So to explore that relationship beforehand, the MGCV package is quite nice. So and other than that, the usual Tidyverse and the deploy package, the usual one. I still have a lot more to explore in R.
Yeah, there's always more to learn, but those are a good set of packages to start with. And really get, if you have your gtsummary, ggplot, you'll be able to create reports as you were explaining, which is a large part of what many of us want to do. What is it like interacting with the global R community when you're based in Malaysia? Are there language issues, time zone issues, internet connectivity issues? What's it like?
In fairness, it's quite daunting. It's not because of the language itself, because I've studied in Ireland before. So the language, English is more or less my language. So I don't have a problem in that sense. But in terms of the skills and the knowledge that everyone have, is quite daunting to feel inferior in terms of skill. So I have to admit that I'm still new in R. So that's why I use the basic packages, and I've learned almost like only for the past 3-4 years. So the skills in terms of having other people talk about their way of using R and producing their own packages, and they can code their own codings, is quite amazing in that sense. So every time that I join any R conferences that have international participants, it makes me feel humbled that everyone is very, very skillful and very knowledgeable in their own field. So, and very inspiring as well. So that's why I'm very humbled that I was invited as one of the speakers from Malaysia. Janani actually came out and reached out to me to become one of the speakers. So yeah, I feel very, very humbled in myself.
Well, it's been great to have you. I've had a lot of great feedback. I don't know if you've got the live chat open, but people said it's a great talk, a wonderful talk. Thanks for sharing. So you can feel
so much for having me.
It went well. And so I'll just explain to people what will happen later in the day. It might be a bit late for people joining from Malaysia, but our next talk is going to be in 2 hours' time now with Tuli Amutenya from Namibia. So do join us if you can, or catch up with the talk on YouTube later, and Afiqah will be joining us again then to help co-host the session. So yeah, thank you very much, Afiqah, and thanks everyone for joining and asking questions. It's been a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.